You're listening to an episode recorded during the time Innovation Fuel was part of University Canada West. We are proud and grateful for the work we've done together, and we want to thank the university for being in our podcast. We are now excited to continue the journey of Innovation Fuel into its next chapter. Thanks for listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Innovation Fuel, the podcast that brings you fantastic stories from entrepreneurs and key industry professionals. I am Dave Kiran.
And I am Gelare Farhadian. We are educators, entrepreneurs, and your hosts. Innovation Fuel is our weekly business podcast brought to you by University Canada West. Each week, we explore diverse business models, entrepreneur journeys, experts' insight, and managerial challenges, and how companies stay agile and innovative during COVID-19. Check out our episodes at www.ucanwest.ca/innovationfuel.
Hello, Galari. How are you doing today?
Hi, Dave. I'm busy to learning how to build an app.
What programmer did you get?
I'm working for Next Generation Hub to build a CRM app.
Quick, how are we going to get a programmer? You know, getting a programmer is really difficult.
So expensive. Okay, I'm not talking about the hiring process, that how time consuming it is, but also hiring a tech guy in the earliest stage of your business. It can be tricky because you just want to test your idea to see if it works. So you need to hire someone, pay someone for something that you're not certain if it's going to survive, or you don't know if it's viable at all. So it's very expensive.
Well, totally. And then you got to think about, okay, well, I already have a limited amount of revenue because I haven't really built anything yet to actually go and get sales yet. But I need to do this in order to build my idea out to the market. So how do you go about it?
Okay, let's welcome Kim Kaplan, the CEO at The Snack. Welcome, Kim.
Hello, Kim, and welcome to Innovation Fuel. We are so happy to have you. We've got a lot to learn. I see this huge portfolio of things we want to talk about today. We talk about some of the things of growth hacking and digital marketing and disrupting this and disrupting that. But Kim, before we go down that pathway, tell us a little bit about you. How did you end up where you are?
Sure. So thanks for having me. I'm Kim. I'm the founder of Snack, which is a video-first dating app. And I ended up coming up with the idea for Snack because of my background. And I was one of the first people into the dating company Plenty of Fish. I was there for 10 years, oversaw product and marketing and revenue optimization. We got acquired by Match.com about 5 years ago now. And I stuck around for 3 years post-acquisition, got to work with the Match Group, which was actually a phenomenal experience, and getting to work across their portfolio of companies, whether that be Tinder or OkCupid or Match, and learning from them. And then I left about 2 years ago and spent a year and a half really advising startups, doing some angel investing myself and trying to decide what I wanted to do next. And one day I was using TikTok and came across this person's profile, and it was a Chase Rice song, and they were kind of pointing in 4 different directions saying, what's your name, what's your sign, what's your age, where you're from? And I had this aha moment of realization that I'm like, that's a dating profile, that's a dating video. And I looked at that song, and at that moment, there was 130,000 of these videos created to that one song. And they were primarily all about dating. And then they had the hashtag single in their description. So I looked at, or the description of the video, and so I looked at the hashtag single, and there's over 13 billion views of the hashtag single.
Wow.
And that's when I realized that there's like this entire dating undertone to TikTok, but it's just fundamentally not built for dating. When you think about location and where someone's based, if they're single, and if you create a good video, you're getting hundreds of likes and comments. How do you weed through that to kind of figure out who's relevant? So that's kind of where the idea was born. And that was about a year ago now. And originally I was going to go out and raise capital in March of 2020. And of course, COVID hit, and that kind of threw a wrench into everything. So I paused what I was doing and said, okay, what does COVID mean for our world, our society, dating? The financial markets were a little bit uncertain too. So I took a few months just to say, like, do I still fundamentally believe that video dating is going to be this next wave? And then you just saw the acceleration of TikTok, and you saw the acceleration of video, and it made me double down on the idea. So I went and raised capital in September of 2020, built the team, built the company, and ultimately launched it about 7 weeks ago now.
That's fantastic. So what problem you're solving with your app, because we have many different dating apps. I can remember my time when I was single. This was eHarmony, it was that time. It's many different apps through this one, but what problem you are solving?
Well, I think for dating, it's one of those things where there always is a new solution that can come up. When you think about the authenticity that comes across with video, the way dating apps exist today is you upload your 5 videos, you write your paragraph about yourself, and you never change it. Whereas social media is you're constantly updating your profile and kind of showing off who you are. And it's a lot easier to kind of pick an image from 10 years ago that might not be the true representation of who you are versus a video that you are creating because you're trying to come up with your dating profile. And videos in the TikTok style didn't exist 10 years ago. So they are relatively new. And it's a great way, like I use the example of someone holding a guitar and taking a picture of them holding a guitar versus them singing a song or playing the guitar. And you get to learn so much more about someone through that interaction versus the static version of themselves that exists today in dating.
So you want to, through the video, you want to create the reliability of the people that they are there. It means they are more true of them.
Yeah, and you get to show off a little bit more about yourself too, and you get to learn, and it's more engaging and fun. Like I talk to people about Instagram versus TikTok now, and everyone kind of says, well, Instagram's flat and boring compared to the excitement and entertainment of TikTok. So if you think about that in the context of dating, and dating is hard. So anything you can do to make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more engaging, only helps you ultimately meet the person that you'd be interested in and make connections. And that's really at the core of what we're trying to do, is help people make connections.
So you want to make the first dating more easy.
More easy, and a way that you can show yourself off a little bit more and have more fun with it. Because that example of the person with a guitar, they might be a 5 out of 10, but then all of a sudden you hear them playing this phenomenal song and you're like, oh, that's awesome. Like they're an 8 out of 10 now in my mind. And that person just has potentially a different opportunity to show their skill sets and who they are versus, oh, I look great in a static image that I happen to have taken for me.
Kim, you're creating that first date experience. Like if you yeah, almost like an element of like, hey, I can see this individual. I can see how they perform. I can see some characteristics of them, what I like about them based on, I can see the personality.
Versus reading this giant paragraph that someone has curated about themselves, and also trying to come up with what to put in your dating profile is hard. So, but the fact that you don't have to write this giant paragraph about yourself, and instead it's you just talk, or you just show yourself off, or you say like, hey, like, here's for university, check out this math problem I'm trying to solve, or isn't this textbook massive? Like, I can't believe I have to read through this semester, or here's my favorite football team. There's so many different opportunities to kind of show off your personality and who you are that's way more authentic and easier to do than in a static profile that exists today.
Yeah, it's bring up more conversation for the first date, because first date you don't know what to talk, how to talk it, so it's make it easier, right?
And that's the other thing we're trying to solve, is that we have a double opt-in process similar to Tinder and Bumble, where both people have to like each other before they can talk to one another. But the difference with us is we're not going to throw you over into a messaging screen and saying, okay, now go figure out what to say to one another. Once we've matched, your videos keep showing up in my feed. But instead of a like button, it's a DM box. So you can message me directly from that video and be like, oh my God, that's such a cute dog. What type of dog is it? It's a way more natural way of starting that conversation versus trying to figure like, oh, so do I have to ask this person to go on a date now? Or do we go for a coffee? Do we talk first? And that insight is really, I got that from talking to a lot to Gen Z about how they're currently dating. And a lot of them told me that they use Tinder and Bumble because they have to. It's the only option for them at the moment, or the best option. But as soon as they match, they immediately move off to Snap or to Instagram to kind of continue that conversation, because they can comment and engage with someone's content versus on a dating profile. It's like, okay, now I've matched, what do I say? So we really took that insight and said, we're going to marry these two things. You shouldn't have to have 2 apps to date. So how do we bring that experience and how people are dating today and put it into one?
Okay. So, and it's not like Tinder that left, or you don't like it, right? You like it.
It's very much like TikTok, where you have a feed of videos that you can go through and look at.
That's perfect, because it's really embarrassing to say no, yes, yes, no, and then you yes to many people's, and yeah, I think that it's way more better.
So Kim, as you scale up and you get more and more of these videos, and there's all these videos coming into you, how do you help them find and go through trying to find that needle in the haystack of the one that might fit them best?
I mean, ultimately, what we should be able to do, and we're still early, but once we have enough videos in there, we can say, look, this person's constantly liking people that has dogs or pets in their video, so we can surface someone like that to them, or they're outdoors, they're hiking. Like, there's detection that can happen, like almost at a tagging level on videos now, so that we can infer certain information from videos and then be able to use that to help show you better matches.
So we'll kind of leverage the data in the background to try and figure out how do I take all this data that's coming in and how these people are interacting, and then try to best match them based on that.
It's really interesting. It's a really interesting topic. So, I mean, I know that's mostly the single people you're covering, but it's always single people can be your customer.
At the moment, we are going after dating, but when you sign up, we ask you what you're looking for. Is it a relationship? Are you looking for friends? And we really want to use that to inform us of what we should be building. So if we find that more people are joining and saying, hey, I just want to meet a friend, then we can shift the product in that direction. But to start with, we had to pick a lane and we said, okay, we're going to go after dating.
So a relationship, any kind of relationship, friendship relationship or other relationship or maybe framework relationship. I don't know, some relationship is more complicated to put a name or label on it. So you just want people can meet each other, but not in a professional way.
At the moment, no, but never say never. I think there's lots of opportunities, but we are going after dating to start with because it's an industry that I know really well. But again, as people sign up, if we find that they're looking more for friendships than they are for relationships, then we can easily pivot the product in that direction.
And during the COVID, you came with this idea, or if it wasn't COVID, you will do that same or no?
Well, I came up with the idea right before COVID, and I did pause to kind of say, is this something I still believe in? And with the acceleration of TikTok and the acceleration of video, that's really where I said, okay, I believe in this even more than I did before, and went after it. And we launched end of February, and we're seeing great growth so far, a lot of pickup. People are really excited about this. And I think it's just natural to move towards a video first dating app. And dating companies have tried video in the past. What's fundamentally changed is TikTok taught people how to create really compelling 15 and 30-second videos. People didn't know how to create a video of themselves before. It was just like this slideshow of images. So TikTok essentially opened up and paved the way for video first profiles, and then naturally video first dating is going to follow.
Oh, that's just fantastic. So, so you don't know which segment you're actually going. You're waiting for your market research to be completed.
Well, we are saying like we're going after Gen Z, and primarily because they're the ones that are most prominent on TikTok, and they grew up in video first. So we are targeting them, but we are absolutely still looking at, okay, so as we're seeing more people join and sign up, what are their age demographics? What are their locations? And then how do we potentially adapt our messaging and our product as a result of that? We've had 7-year-olds sign up on the app. And I wasn't quite sure how they found us or heard of us, but it's great. There's not many people for them to match with because there's not many people in their age group, but that's okay. They can still, it's just interesting to see them trying to create videos. It's teaching us something about what we need to do to make it even a better product for everybody. Because if we can help them create good dating profiles or dating videos, then ultimately we can help anybody do it.
So Kim, how do you move towards, you've been 7 weeks going, how do you stay in a sort of competitive, staying ahead of the curve? Because you have a lot of competition out there and a lot of organizations that probably have a lot of capital that they can move really quickly. How do you move forward with that growth plan?
For me, it's the fact that we're still small and nimble, and we can pivot really quickly, more so than the larger organizations can. So I actually think we have a competitive advantage for the fact that we are small and we can quickly adapt to new opportunities. And I've spent 10 years in the dating space. There's just things that I know and that I would say I'm an expert in that a lot of other people don't know. And so really taking advantage of the fact that I have that expertise, and it's just trying things out. I raised a bunch of capital and we're going to figure it out. I'm competitive as a person, and it's kind of part of my nature. And I'm not worried about the incumbents in this space, whether that be Match or Bumble. I think that they are watching video and seeing what happens, but they're just larger organizations, and it's harder to pivot and harder to kind of make these opportunities come to light. And we have a first mover advantage in the fact that we're already in the market.
So, do you have any partners that can help you grow your business?
Well, we're working a lot with creators, particularly on TikTok and on Instagram, to really share about us. So when you think about distribution channels, like historically you had, whether it was Google SEO or Facebook, or then you had the mobile app store. Like if you're one of the first apps in the app store, you naturally got to raise in the rankings, and it's a lot harder now. So to me, this new kind of distribution channel is really TikTok and influencers. And I think there's a really great opportunity for companies to kind of springboard off of those and see growth. And that's where I say, like, we have a first mover advantage. We're already in the market. We already are working with influencers and creators to help us spread the word about Snack.
Oh, that's great. So can you just a little bit give us a challenge about influencer? Because we had an episode about influencers, and there is some challenges about them. So do you face any challenges with influencers?
There's always challenges working with people, I think. We have some great partnerships that we really enjoy. And I think it's just finding the right people to work with. And you kind of quickly learn who has a good reputation, which management groups you enjoy working with. But it just takes time and energy. Like we have people full time essentially trying to find creators that fit with our brand too, because not every creator does, especially when you talk about dating. There's a lot of people that are in relationships that wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable talking about a dating app. So you kind of you have to find the right fit. And I think that's the hardest thing and also getting in touch with them. If they are someone who's doing great videos, they're getting inundated with messages. So how do you break through that? Or how do you find their management? So it just takes time. But I think we are getting a good reputation in the space. So people are actually reaching out to us now. And we are trying to find ways to kind of improve the processes around it because it is time consuming.
That's really interesting.
So Kim, and as you're going through this process, what are the greatest challenges you're facing as you're going different from your Plenty of Fish days, and into this new venture? What are some of the greatest challenges that you face as you go down this journey?
Oh, user growth. I would say when I joined Plenty of Fish, it was quite a large company at that point in time. So we're starting from scratch, and that's a hard problem for dating. Like, how do you get enough people in a given city or a location that you can find someone that's relevant to you and that you would be interested in going on a date with? So luckily, I mean, we are seeing great growth, and I remember those first few weeks being like, okay, there's like barely anybody on this app. Like, of course, we're not going to create good matches, but it's very quickly getting to the point where like, oh, certain cities, like there's pockets where we are seeing enough growth and enough users and we had our first success couple 2 weeks ago that met and had gone on a date and like, we all cheered as an organization. We're like 5 weeks into this company, we had our first success couple. Like that to me speaks a lot. It really reminds you about why you're doing what you're doing. And to me, it was like a proof point that like, okay, we're going in the right direction and what we're doing is working. So we all celebrated. Our logo's a little pretzel heart, and there was pretzel hearts flying all around our Slack channels, and it was really fun and like celebratory things. And it's hard. The entire team was hired during COVID, so we haven't met a lot of people in person. And so how do we have these celebrations and how do we have these moments where we get to come together as a team and get really excited? So it was really fun. Like I loved all these pretzel hearts flying around.
Well, and Kim, like culture is a big part of developing like an organization, and especially the foundation as you're building it. You want to really build that foundation, that culture, and to do it in COVID times when you can't even be together. Wow, that's a big challenge.
Yeah, it is. And I think to me, it really has to do with compassion and being open and honest with people about what's going on and being transparent. And we are working through what our values as an organization are right now. And we have 5 new people starting on Monday. So we want to make sure that they get to be included in the process of creating our values. So we are kind of holding off because that's a pretty big growth for us. So we're waiting until they join to really finalize them. But like authenticity and genuineness and fun and relationships are kind of the 3 core things. Is like, how do we make sure we're having fun? How do we make sure our customers are having fun? How do we build strong relationships as a team? But then also, how do we build strong relationships for the people using our products? And how do we be authentic with one another as an organization? And then how do we help our customers be authentic with one another through the videos they're posting? So when I think about the values and what we want to see as an organization, it's as much about us as a company, but also about how do we put that also into what our customers do and see.
Absolutely. So I have some more questions here. Is that about your team? So you started from just yourself, or did you have a co-founder?
I was the original founder. And then when I went to raise capital, I had started having conversations with people that I wanted to bring on as part of the team. But until we actually had capital in the bank, I didn't want anyone to leave their full-time roles, especially during COVID, to go to something that wasn't funded. So I did wait until the money was in our bank account to make any official offers, but we did have kind of that core team that we knew were going to come together to help build this.
So it's for me, it's really unique journey for you, because you've been an angel investors. Now you're looking for someone to invest on you. So what's the big difference is how you could find that investors, that you've been an angel investor before?
I have. It was interesting. The one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is the process that leads up to fundraising. Everyone talks about pitching and your deck, and people spend an exponential amount of time on that, but they don't talk about the process that gets you in front of people and gets timing to line up. So like my actual, from start to finish, from when I started pitching to when I had my term sheet, was 3 weeks. But I'd spent a month prior to that getting everything ready so that as soon as I was ready to pitch, I had everyone lined up, and I had 30 or 40 meetings that first week. I had 60 or 70 the second week. I had 100, say, the third week. And then that resulted in multiple term sheets coming together.
So when you're looking, Kim, for financing, because this is a big thing, we had this conversation with multiple people out there, and there's two different trains of thoughts of where do you go? Do you go to angel investors? Do you go to VCs? Do you go to like bank, or do you go to the family element? Like, how did you decide your direction on how you're going to do this, how you're going to scale this up, and what avenues you were going to pick?
I think every company is so different. For myself, I knew that I would not build this company if I didn't have a $3 million backing. I know how hard it is to build a dating app. I know how much we have to spend on marketing. I know how we want some wiggle room in case we have to pivot a little bit. And to me, it was a non-starter. If I didn't have $3 million, I wasn't going to go out and do this. And it also was kind of proof that there is excitement and interest in what we're doing, and that people believed in it. And it was because I have that experience in dating, it was relatively easy for me to raise capital to go back after dating. But I did end up taking a combination of angels and VC capital. And when I did raise from the US, but I held out 25% of the round for Canadian capital. And that was something that was really important to me, is how do we create more successes in Canada? And as part of that is how do these funds get successes out of Canada as well, so that they can then reinvest in the community. So I got my valuation from the US because they are much higher than you get in Canada. And then I came back to the funds and people I knew in Canada. I said, here's what I'm raising at. Are you interested? And almost all of them said yes. And it was great. I'm really grateful that I'm able to have that capital and those people that I have longstanding relationships with on my cap table.
So, Kim, there's two elements here that maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, that people trusted you. First, your experience on dating apps. Second is your experience as an angel investor, how you can talk that people can trust you.
I don't think my angel investor experience helped me at all, to be honest. In anything, if anything, it's really I happened to connect with a couple of people in advance who have kind of coached people through raising capital, and they're from San Francisco, and they've actually just moved back to Vancouver. And their whole process right now is, how do we coach more Canadian companies to raise capital from the US? Because there is this notion of we aren't as confident in ourselves, or we don't present ourselves as confidently as what our friends in the US do. And you need to do that. I joke that this person literally told me, like, Kim, you got to go in there and put your cocky pants on. Like, you've got to act a certain way because they respect that, or they're expecting it because that's how the US counterparts would do it. So if you walk in there with a Canadian attitude, you're going to get walked all over. So it was interesting. And raising during COVID, I actually think it was a benefit in some ways, because when you go down to San Francisco to raise, you're Ubering between one location to the next to try to make your meetings, and you have to leave big gaps in between them to make sure you have time. And you're walking into their offices where they're comfortable, and you're sitting at their board tables. Whereas during COVID, it's like I literally sat in my den And I would bring them into my den and say, hey, like I'm in charge of the schedule. I know when I need breaks. I know when I can start, when I'm going to end in the day. And it was about building a relationship over video. And I actually never went through my deck with anyone when I was pitching. I would just have conversations, and it would be like this, where you get to know them versus having them, like, there's only so much screen real estate someone can look at any point in time. So if they're staring at your pitch deck instead of you, they're building a relationship with your pitch deck. And you as a founder should know your deck well enough that, yes, you send it in advance if they have any questions, but you should know it well enough that you can just talk to it. And you can have a conversation with someone versus going through line by line a deck, which they've seen before.
Okay, Kim, one more thing is that because most of the people that have been interviewed, that they want to have a minimum viable product, then I start looking at it. But you said that you didn't start at the app. It was just an idea, right? Just an idea on the paper. Then you talk. It means, how hard was it?
Again, it comes down to the fact that I have experience in dating and I was going back after the category, that I had a leg up and I have a success in my background. And again, that gives me another leg up. So I would say my experience and what I was doing is very different than what most people experience. And I'm lucky in that regard. But I think a lot of people believed in the idea, and a lot of people believed in the thesis that a video first dating app is going to succeed. And so it wasn't a hard sell to convince someone that this is the way the industry is going. And then you put my background in there and they're like, done. Like, it was relatively easy to get people to say yes and get excited about what we were going to be building. And I knew when, like, I had pretty aggressive timelines for, okay, as soon as the money's in the bank, this is how long it's going to take us to get the app built. And we hit it within reason. Say we were about 3-4 weeks behind schedule, which to me is, from start to finish, being 3 to 4 weeks behind schedule isn't so bad. And we launched an MVP. Like, to start with, like, we only launched our video editing tools a week ago. So when you think about like what we had out there, you could upload your TikToks and you could upload videos that were on your phone, but you couldn't create anything new until a week ago. So we're still iterating on it. But to me, it's about getting that initial product out there and learning from it. And if you put out a pixel perfect product with everything thought about and bells and whistles, you don't get to see how people use it. So now we're saying, okay, well, how many people are creating videos on our app versus uploading a video that's already created? And then that helps inform us as to how much time we should be spending on the video creation tools versus other features. So it's like, basically, how do you kind of iterate as quickly as possible and learn from it to then say, okay, that's like, I'm going to go build this now. I think there's an old adage where someone's like, you just add a button and like put some tracking on it to see how many people tap it before you actually go and build it. Like, that is kind of my mentality around building.
Yeah, but Kim, and I think the what you've identified right there, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they failure to launch, failure to move forward. They're looking at the features too much. They're looking at, oh, I need this to be perfect before it goes launches. But really, what you're saying is that we need to just go at it and start learning and get something out there, get a proof of concept out there and see what happens with it.
That's my train of thought. There's other people that have the opposite train of thought that are very experienced and have been very successful as well. So I think you just have, listen to everyone and make the decision that's right for you. But for me, my decision and kind of my ethos that I've always had is, let's get it live and let's learn from it. And then let's iterate, because what I believe to be true might not end up being true. And I'd rather learn sooner than later that is the case. And when I say, like, the fact that we had our first success couple, to me was like proof that, like, okay, what we're doing works. Seeing our numbers around how many people are liking, how many people are talking to one another. Like, those are the things, and the growth in those numbers are like, okay, we're in the right direction. And as we make tweaks to the product, as we see lifts or declines in those, we're like, okay, that didn't work, or great, let's double down on this because that really accelerated something.
Kim, so what is your revenue stream? So is it membership or advertisement?
At the moment, we don't have any revenue. We don't have plans in the near term for revenue because it takes a lot of energy to build that and to maintain it. And but I oversaw revenue for Plenty of Fish. I know the kind of the dating playbook, and we will have subscription revenue at some point, but there's no plans at the moment. We've got enough capital that we've raised that we can kind of move forward without requiring that at this moment. And with consumer apps, you've seen it time and time again. Kind of people are okay with the fact, investors are okay with the fact that you don't have a revenue stream for a certain amount of time, as long as you have a line of sight as to how you're going to make revenue in the future.
There is one thing that people, I mean, entrepreneurs, when we discuss with them, if they are scared of the fundraising or raising capital, because it means that they owe a lot of money and they have to, I mean, it's a lot of stress for them to bring back that money and send it back money to the investors. Is it a problem for you?
I can't explain it other than like fundamentally I know what I'm building is going to work. And so I'm not worried about returning that capital. And at the same time, everyone I've talked to, because I've had these conversations with some people that I know that wanted to invest, and they just say like, we're professionals. We expect a certain percentage of these things to fail, and we expect a certain percentage of them to be wildly successful, and some of them will be neutral. So people that invest for a living are investing with the expectation that X percent of them aren't going to be successful, and they're okay with that. And that's essentially the bet they're making. So when you're taking capital from unsophisticated investors, yes, that I think causes more stress, and I wouldn't let friends and family invest for that exact reason. I didn't want the stress of having to return their capital that they weren't okay with losing. And that to me was, and I also didn't want the conversation every time I saw them to be about how's the app doing, and me feeling guilty if I was taking a break with them or we were out having a good time one weekend and they're like, how come you're not working? Like that just wasn't something that I didn't want to be part of the equation. So I think there's a big difference as to whether or not you take capital from friends and family and the stress associated with that versus taking capital from professionals that they're doing this for a living. And at the end of the day, like if they don't take those bets, then they're not going to get the wild successes too.
Yeah, that is fantastic.
And you, Kim, and I, as we start to wrap up the show here, one thing you identified, and I think you talked a little bit about it here, is identifying the right partners, the right financial partners that you want to move forward with. But you also talked about one thing that I think is a big challenge, and maybe all of us will have to think about this as we go away. But you said that your first strategic move was to go to the U.S. to get the capital. And we've heard this all the time, that people are more willing to give up more capital to get you going in the U.S. versus in Canada. Is a lot more conservative, but you played a really interesting card of going across the border and then coming back across the border to try and get that Canadian element. And I think we as individuals, our institution and everybody else out there needs to start changing that story and figure out how do we bring this back, because we hear lots of stories of success stories in Vancouver that are built and then they go south. And I'm like, that's it. It's over.
And that's, it's okay. It's okay for those success stories to go south. It's more about how do we ensure that some of that capital comes back into the ecosystem. And I think you're starting to see some of those successes. Like Boris Wirtz with version 1 was one of the early investors in Coinbase. And I think that's a great example of, okay, that capital is now coming back into the ecosystem, whether that be his LPs or him. And they're able to then kind of put that back into the ecosystem in their future investments. Whereas if funds don't have successes in Canada and don't return capital, then the people that invest in them are going to probably lose faith in their next fund that they raise and not want to give more capital to them. So that's why I wanted to ensure that there was some Canadian capital on my table, and I'm continuing to take capital from Canadian investors.
Absolutely love it, Kim. This has been a really enlightening conversation. I think we could go on for hours and hours and so much more to ask. Before we run away here, Kim, we always ask our guests to give us a challenge. Throw a challenge out to our students, throw a challenge out to our audience here. What kind of challenge can you throw at us?
To me, the biggest challenge we're facing right now is user growth. And I think you were asking me before we kind of came on air around growth hacking. And to me, growth hacking is about testing multiple things constantly and trying to come up with new ideas as to how you can scale without necessarily having to pay your way into a market. So my challenge that I put out to a couple of actually student organizations is, if you were given a very minimal budget, whether it be $1,000 or $5,000, how would you spend it across different channels to learn what is working and then what is scalable from there? And I really said, how do you get 25,000 signups from $5,000? And it's how do you kind of find opportunities that don't cost a lot and that you can scale, but you might have to spend a bit of money up front on creating a video, let's say, or testing something. And then you're like, great, this works. And then how do you go elsewhere? So that would be my challenge, is how do you come up with different opportunities? And you have to think out of the box. When you have a low budget, it's not just about, I'm going to buy X amount of ads on this platform. It's how do you get into Facebook groups? How do you get them talking about it? What's relevant from a dating perspective that you can do and kind of promote that gets Snack out there?
Get that word of mouth going. We'll start right now getting the word of mouth going.
Yes.
How can they reach this app? How can they get to Snack?
So we're in the iTunes store. Unfortunately, we don't have Android at the moment, but you can search for Snack Video Dating, download it, give us 5 stars, but also feel free to give us any feedback. We have a Discord channel on our website, and that you can join, and we are actively on there kind of answering any questions, and we are actively seeking input. We have a group of Gen Zs that we constantly reach out to say, okay, what should we be building? Our name came from a group of Gen Zs. Our logo came from a Gen Z. Like, we are really trying to engage the community and say, help us build this app, because I know dating. I kind of know the framework of it, but I don't know everything that Gen Z is going to want. So how do we include them in the conversation? So if anyone wants to be included, feel free to join our Discord or shoot us a note, and we're happy to kind of include you in those conversations.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Kim.
You're more than welcome.
To all entrepreneurs and managers out there, we have ambitious students here at UCW who would love to hear from you and help you with your business through our internship, our capstone program. If you think you have a wonderful story or a challenge that you want to share with our students and our audience that you think they can benefit from, we want to hear from you. We want that information. We want you to be a part of this show. We also want you to join our mentorship program. We've got a great mentorship program to help students as they move on their educational journey towards getting into a career or launching a new opportunity. So reach out to us, connect with us at www.ucanwest.ca/innovationfuel.
You have just listened to the Innovation Fuel podcast with your hosts, Dave and Gillere. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Google, or Spotify. Join us next week for another innovative story. Thank you for listening and have a great week.